But now, how do you complete the square if a, remember a is the coefficient of x squared, isn't 1? Well, make it look like it isn't 1. In fact, what can you do to this 4 to get rid of it? Well, divide everything by 4. Remember, if you divide everything by 4, that means every single term in your equation needs to be divided by 4. Therefore, we get y over 4 is equal to 4x squared divided by 4 is just x squared, which is awesome because we want a to be 1. 16x divided by 4 would be 4x, and then plus 1/4. Now, think of the part that we want to focus on for our completing the square. Remember, this is the part we're going to use. So, let's make our area model. This is awesome that a is 1 because we can easily see that this is going to split into x and x. Now, if we have 4 x's, we need to split them evenly. That means we better put 2 x's here and 2 x's here. That means that in this square, we need to have a 4. Let's do our trick that we learned at the end of the last video, where we can just add 4 to each side. So we're going to add a 4 here, and we're going to add a 4 to this side. That means that we have y over 4 plus 4 is equal to x squared plus 4x plus my new 4, and then we still have the plus 1/4 hanging out. This is awesome because this part is equal to this square, which we know factors to x plus 2 in parentheses squared. So, using that information, we still have the y over 4 is equal to x plus 2 in parentheses squared plus 1/4. Then it just becomes simple algebra to get the y by itself. So the first thing would be to subtract the 4 from each side. Don't be afraid to do that extra step in getting your common denominator. So if we're adding 1/4, then we're subtracting 16/4 because 4 would be 16/4 if we get a common denominator. I'm going to shrink this just a little bit so we can fit it all on here. That means that we're going to have y over 4 is equal to x plus 2 squared. 1/4 minus 16/4 would give us a negative 15/4. And then the final thing to get y by itself would be to multiply everything by 4. That gives us y is equal to, if we multiply this set of parentheses by 4, we're going to have 4 and then times x plus 2 squared. And then negative 15/4 times 4 is basically going to cancel out that 4 in the denominator to give us minus 15. This means that your vertex should be at negative 2, comma, negative 15. Feel free to pause the video if you need some time to take this in or copy it down, but I am going to do one more example for you. So this example is y is equal to negative x squared minus 3x minus 1/4. While a is technically negative 1, it has to be 1 in order to do completing the square. So just like last time, you want to divide that out so that the coefficient of x squared is a positive 1. If we divide everything by negative 1, we're going to end up getting negative y is equal to positive x squared plus 3x plus 1/4. Remember, multiplying or dividing by negative 1 is really just changing the sign of everything. Now, we're going to focus on our completing the square using these two terms. So if we do our area model, I know we're going to have the x squared here. And then I need to evenly split the 3 x's. That means I'm going to have 3 over 2x in each portion, meaning that the side length of the squares or square is x plus 3/2. So what we need to add to this part would be 3/2 times 3/2, which is 9 over 4. Remember, our easy way of dealing with this is just to add the 9/4 to each side and leave the positive 1/4 hanging out. So we end up getting negative y is plus 9/4 is equal to x squared plus 3x plus 9/4, and then we still have this plus 1/4. Now, a very common mistake would be to add the 9/4 and the 1/4 on that right-hand side of the equation together because they have a common denominator, and you say, hey, that equals 10/4, and I can simplify it to be 5/2, and it looks prettier, and whatever. Don't do that. Remember, the reason we got this 9/4 in the first place was so that we could combine it with the x squared and the 3x term and factor to make it this square, which is x plus 3/2 in parentheses squared. So we don't want to combine it with the 1/4. We want to keep it separate with this x squared and the 3x. So this simplifies then to be x plus 3/2 squared plus 1/4 still over here. Now what you can do though is you can subtract the 9/4 from the left hand side and make sure you do it on the right hand side to balance your equation. So on the left hand side you're left with negative y, and on the right hand side we have x plus 3/2 squared, and then a positive 1/4 minus 9/4. This is nice. They already have a common denominator. In fact, if we combine them, a positive 1/4 minus 9/4 would give us a negative 8/4. But negative 8/4 is really just the same thing as negative 2. So I'm actually going to just write it as negative 2. The final step would be to multiply everything by negative 1. I'll write it as times a negative 1 so we know it's not subtracting 1. It's a negative sign. And so then we're going to get y is equal to a negative x plus 3/2 in parentheses squared, and then plus 2. That means that your vertex would be at negative 3/2, comma, positive 2. Hope this helps.